George Borrello, our state senator from Chautauqua, where I spent a summer as a 7-year-old and lost almost all my clothes that I had that year.
You spent time in Chautauqua, too?
I did.
Where haven't you been?
My parents rented a house near the big amphitheater there.
Yeah, beautiful spot.
Unbeknownst to them, there was a big organ in that amphitheater, and someone was practicing it, usually very late at night. Actually, I really enjoyed my time there, Senator. But I did lose a number of my items from the day camp, and my mother is still very upset about this. If you find a blue windbreaker from 1977, please call me.
Is a Star Wars windbreaker, perhaps?
No, I wish it were. But it's a beautiful area up there.
49 years ago?
Yeah, about almost 49 years ago. Yeah. It would have been 49 years ago. But fun fact, also from the Jamestown area, Lucille Ball, correct?
That's correct, yes. Yeah. In fact, we have the National Comedy Center in downtown Jamestown. It is an amazing place. If you have not been to Western New York, go to Jamestown, go to the National Comedy Center. And every year in early August, we have the Lucille Ball Comedy Festival with A-list comedians. We had Jerry Seinfeld, actually this year, Jerry Seinfeld, Sebastian Maniscalco, A-list comedians in the little community of Jamestown, New York. It's an amazing place.
Now, one of my Freedom 250, The Decisions That Made America features was on Lucille Ball because she was an incredibly smart businesswoman.
Yes.
So first, when she was still married to Desi Arnaz, they decided to create a production company to create I Love Lucy, and then that was kind of sold to see. So, in other words, she took control of it, and then when they got divorced, she became the first woman to run a real studio in Hollywood, and that studio was responsible for a couple little things like Star Trek, Mission Impossible that no one else would have produced.
But I remember the name of the company, Desi Lou.
Desi Lou.
Right. Well, she is dead.
Yeah, she did pass away in 1989.
You're not going to murder anyone today on the show, right? You murdered Linda yesterday.
I did. I'm very proud of the fact that we immediately corrected it. We didn't even go to commercial break. I accidentally
I scratched my head and I said, is she dead?
No, she's not.
No, he's a murderer. I'm telling you.
Sadly, she is suffering from an incredibly rare disease that is incurable. We certainly are praying for her. But yes, I apologize once again. She's one of my favorite singers, and for some reason, I guess I thought she had passed away. But Linda Ronstadt is still with us, and may she get better.
Listen, today's our last day here, Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yeah.
And I just want to say good morning to everyone. It's been an incredible week filling in for Sid and Friends. Sid, thank you for trusting us with your audience. Anytime you need to take off, we're ready to take over again.
Well, there you go. Listen, one of the big things that people are talking about here in New York City this morning is this decision by the city to freeze the rent, which, look, obviously rents are very high in the city. I do believe there's time for compassion, but if you think this is compassionate to the tenants, anything longer than this 1 year, you're being very foolish. Their rents will be jacked up much higher.
You know what would be fair? And I'm telling this to every business person out there. And, I understand, the socialists want to play the violin that, see, we're doing something for you. All right. You want to reduce the rents? You want to reduce price increases? Well, why don't you reduce the real estate taxes to compensate for not being able to raise the rents.
And the water charges are going up. Huge increase there.
John hit the nail on the head.
Yeah,
you know what? Don't increase the expenses and lower the rents.
Of the landlords.
It makes no sense.
Low. If you want to lower the rents, lower the rents, lower the real estate taxes. It makes sense, right?
Of course.
Yeah. This is common sense. George Borrello, you're a state senator, but you're a businessman too. What do you think?
Well, first of all, New York City's unique, right? You've got this huge amount of people in a very small space, essentially, and rents are high. It's a supply and demand thing. But what you're doing is you're basically saying we're going to limit your ability to care for these properties, to do the upkeep that you need, and also as you said, John, there's a lot of other expenses here, and a lot of them are burdens on the property owners. And look, you want to know who the worst landlord in New York City is? NYCHA.
The city.
New York City Housing Authority.
Yeah, exactly. The New York City Housing Authority is the worst. It's a slumlord, the biggest slumlord in the city. So what's being done about that? And you're going to drive more people out of the private property business. And that's what they want. They want to confiscate property. This is the socialist agenda. And you do that by death by 1,000 cuts. We're not going to let you make money. We're not going to let you do the things you need to do. We're going to convert your buildings to all electric at huge expenses. So you want to save, you want to make rent more affordable. Let's not make everybody convert their buildings to all electric, which is going to be a huge cost. Huge
supply and demand. If you want the price of something that where demand isn't elastic. I mean, people are going to want to live in a house, right? Yeah. So or an apartment. That's not going to change. You have to increase supply.
That's right.
Period. And you're not going to increase supply by raising the costs and all the regulatory barriers, et cetera, et cetera. And by the way, the only people who really have the money and the capital to build more are the higher end builders. So what you do is let them build more, because then the higher end now will become a little less expensive, and it will trickle down. That's the way that works. If you tell everyone, hey, we'll let you build in New York City, but it's got to be $200 a month rent, I mean, no one's going to build.
Listen, I have a different take on this whole thing here. I think that the socialists are playing the cards right. I believe that wealthy people should play their cards now, right?
The PR card, the public relations card.
Not only the public relations card, the human side of a billionaire, of a multimillionaire. You know, if you own a few buildings, lower the rents a little bit and write it off. Write it off, because it's legal to do that. You know, I bought a truck, cost me around $90,000. I was going to sell it. Instead, I'm going to donate it to one of WABC's advertisers who does a lot of good things. There, what's the name?
Cars for Kids.
Cars for Kids.
Something like that.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm going to call Cars for Kids, and I'm going to donate the truck, and I'm going to write it off. That's it. It's simple. So let's hit them back harder than they hit us.
You make a good point, but not everyone has the income to write off. You know, that's the thing.
No, I'm talking about the big ones. The big guys.
Okay.
The guys. Listen, you go to Mott Haven in the Bronx.
Yeah, those guys.
They built that up tremendously. You have like 8,000 apartments, and they're all empty. Why? Because the rents are too high. People in that area can't afford it, and the gentrifiers haven't gotten there yet. The socialists have not gotten to Mott Haven yet, right? So those landlords should lower the rents, make them affordable, rather than $4,000, charge $2,000, and write the rest off.
Well, I have an even more capitalist idea, Fernando and Senator Borrello and John. I think, you know, one of the things that's incredibly valuable about a city like New York City, and there's very few other places like this anywhere in this country, is you have massive potential foot traffic by your retail property. And I know Amazon is taking over a lot of things, but foot traffic is even more valuable because of that. If I had that kind of money to invest in new buildings and things like that, one of my great public relations move would be to have lower rents, but for the tenants, for the people living there. But for retailers, I could say, listen, I'm guaranteeing you a large building where there's going to be a lot of foot traffic to your store, and make my money back with the commercial real estate.
You know what? Just write the whole thing off. give them businesses give them bodegas, give them supermarkets that they can come in and shop to. Give them restaurants. You know, what are you going to do? You donate it to causes where people steal 80% of your donation.
Yeah.
You know, there are organizations, not for profits. You donate $1,000, they use $800 for their expenses, and they spend $20,000 on whatever their mission is.
Well, let's talk about a free market thing that's happening without any socialism, which is also helping our consumers this morning, and that is the price of oil, where we just briefly dipped to the $68 a barrel level, all the way. I mean, almost half of what it was just a couple of months ago, a month and a half ago, whatever it was, when we were at 120. And the national average for 1 gallon of gas now at $3.90. That's 35 out of the last 36 days. It's gone down. You know, you don't like these speculators when they drive the price up, but they've been driving it down fast. And July 4th next weekend, I think we're going to see a handle much lower than $3.90 by then.
Not fast enough.
Yeah, but
they're
still,
not lowering fast enough. And the president is right in saying that they're not lowering it fast enough.
But it is lower. We can, at least we have good news on that. And, you know, this is not free. You know, a lot of people say freeze the prices. What if we had frozen the price at 4, we'd be stealing money from our own people right now. So let it keep going down. Whether you think it's going down fast enough is a different argument, but definitely we're talking about. But still, look, we're at 60. We're probably going to get back down to 68 in a few minutes. This is a good development. And even though Iran attacked, once again, what did we all say when the agreement was made? Not if Iran will break it. It's just when they'll break it. And they attacked a commercial ship in the Strait of Hormuz yesterday afternoon, going into the evening. Oil shot up briefly, but then they thought better of it.
Let's get this straight. We straightened it out last night at 5 o'clock.
Oh, you did? Good.
The truth is that it's not they. Probably a single, we had KT McFarlane on last night. It's probably a single individual that had an extra drone You can't eliminate. It wasn't a massive attack. It was one drone, one cargo ship. There's always going to be a how do you say it in Brooklyn? Schmuck?
A schmuck, yeah.
There's always going to be a schmuck somewhere that has one drone left and wants to stir the pot.
Hamas does this all the time, by the way. One person fires a rocket sometimes. And
That's it. Yeah, and you're never going to, you can never get 100%.
I agree. 100%.
But you know what happens?
Well, the markets agree with you too.
They
send it down.
forced the price of oil like $2.
But it went right back down.
You know how much money that is? $2.
They messed up your prediction. They messed up your prediction.
No, but it's going. But it's
nothing to do with my prediction.
It's all going back.
Okay. But this is what it is. So I tell all people that dealing in the markets, don't panic over nonsense, guys. Stuff happens, and stuff is always going to happen.
Well, the markets are always worried about something, but again, if you go to the gas pump in most of the year, I mean, I'm down to 370 by me, and I told you, if you asked me about a mid-grade yesterday, Fernando, because I don't do mid-grade, I do the cheap grade.
Yeah, I don't know, you're cheap.
But I texted you yesterday, and I think I said it was only 406 for mid-grade at my station, so not
You
bad.
shop around for gas. You drive a mile to save a gallon. I don't understand that.
I know those people that drive 2 miles, spend 20 cents in extra fuel, but they save 12 cents.
Yeah, well, that's Jake.
No, I have
principle.
where I live, I actually have.
You're right. I do. Jake, I've got to confess, I do the same thing. Yeah. I swear to God, I know where the cheapest gas stations are, and if it's 3-4 miles away from me, I still go there.
No, I don't do
because
that.
Psychologically, 10 cents that you spend on let's say 20 gallons is $2.
Yeah. No. What I do is something similar to that, which is I know the cheapest gas station in my neighborhood, and I make sure that when I'm near that area anyway for another thing, that's when I fill up, no matter how much. So even if I have only a quarter of a tank left to fill up, I'll go there.
Well, you don't drive that much. You know what? I follow the lead from the cab drivers. The cab drivers know exactly where to go.
And when to go.
And they do their thing the right way. So, listen, cab drivers should be listening to WABC every morning so that they get the latest on gas prices, on oil prices, so that they get the latest on who's here in the studios. I guarantee you that they are so happy that Earth, Wind, and Fire are here this week. But you know what? We're turning over the studio to sit again.
State Senator George Borrello is with us as well in studio. And Senator, we had you on the phone a couple of days ago to talk about the Republican Party in the state, where you're one of the spokesmen for. So, Fernando and I talked about something just off the air before the show started, which was some of these socialist candidates winning these congressional primaries, which I think is very frightening, especially this Daria Chevalier, who says she wants to wipe her hands with the American flag. She's viciously anti-Semitic, and I'll say that. Sid would say the same. I know he would say the same. Could somebody like Adriano Espaillat, who lost this primary, just as a political expert like yourself, Senator Borrello, should he run as an independent in the general election?
Do an Andrew Cuomo?
Yeah, Andrew Cuomo. Should he do it?
As a Republican, I'd love to see him do that, because that'll split the vote and hopefully put it in the hands of the Republicans.
Right. Okay, give them a chance.
For Republican strategy. But look, it was not just congressional candidates. We had candidates in the Senate and the Assembly. Look, I know everybody focuses on D.C. and Congress, and certainly it's very important. But your everyday life is far more impacted by what happens in Albany than what happens in Washington. And the people that won these primaries in a very low turnout, by the way,
very low.
10% of the registered Democrats in some cases.
Incredible.
So, and by the way, this is from the party of voter suppression, and but yet they're making decisions on 1 in 10 of their voters, making a choice.
A Tuesday afternoon in the middle of the summer is a form of voter suppression.
100%.
Deliberate by Democrats.
And by the way, that was when Democrats took control. That was one of the things they changed. They moved the primaries from September to June, and then also having to collect signatures on petitions in February and March. But where I live, it's pretty darn cold.
September 11th, the day of the attack, was a primary day here in New York. People forget that. They had to redo it. But yes, it used to be in September, and it was a little bit more in people's minds and consciences. People were at school, kids were at school. Yes. I mean, the regular day-to-day stuff. Where you represent, let's get a little bit more local, because all politics is local. Yes. You represent. We made our jokes about Chautauqua and my missing clothing and Jamestown. What are it's
beautiful country.
It's beautiful country. Yes. You have a lot of celebrities who own property around there and things like that, and that's great maybe for some things, but what are the major economic issues there that might resonate for everyone else around the country? I mean, this is our chance to kind of tap into a non-city type of politics and economics.
Most of New York State is rural. The number one industry in New York State, believe it or not, is agriculture. People think it's finance, but it's actually agriculture.
Apples and
grapes. So our concerns are like everyone else: the loss of population, the fact that our children are leaving. I speak a lot at schools, and I speak to government classes.
That Buffalo area.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm in Western
how
New
many
York.
people were in Buffalo 40 years ago, and how many are now?
Well, there's a lot less.
I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this: the population loss, of the state in general, but it's been particularly hard in upstate New York. And people say, well, there's no jobs there. That's really not true. We have jobs. We don't have people that have the skills to fill the jobs that are open. We need more people that are in the trades. People that are welders and plumbers and carpenters. There's a severe shortage of these, and we're trying to push back in the sense of trying to get kids into the STEM and STEAM. Look, I come from a family of plumbers. My father, my grandfather. I didn't want to go into the plumbing business. My grandfather, my father, they wanted me to go to college. We've been telling kids that for 40 years, and look what we have now. We have a shortage of people in the skilled trades, and Mike Rowe talks about this all the time. And we don't have, so we have jobs, but we're telling people is don't go to work. Don't go to work. It's okay. You can live off the taxpayers. The biggest expense. I spent 10 years in county government. I was also county executive of Chautauqua County before I was a senator. The biggest expense by far for county government, which is property taxpayers. Is welfare. It's Medicare, it's Medicaid. It's the fact that we have the safety net in New York State. People don't understand what that means. So the federal government limits you to 5 years of being on welfare. After 5 years, the federal government will no longer fund it. Then we go into states like New York that have what they call the safety net, which means forever you can live on welfare. We have multi-generational families that have been on welfare. Imagine somebody who you're trying to tell a kid to go to work who's never seen his parents or grandparents work. That's the problem that we have, and that's a problem, particularly here.
I want to hit on a couple things, both good news and bad news. The thing about the children leaving. Now, this is something that is very much one of the undercurrents of the whole migrant crisis thing. People are asking me all the time, what are so many Somalis going to Minnesota and Maine for? Well, I used to work in Maine. Fernando's going to make fun of me. Bangor, Maine.
God.
I lived and worked there. That is an aging population. The children are leaving. And you better believe that there are businesses and even government people as well who are, well, they might be illegal, they may not, but at least it's warm bodies coming into our population. Is there something like that going on? But before you answer that question, Buffalo, to answer John's question, the population is less than half of what it was in 1950. So it's
half,
less than half.
That's a big number.
And we also lost, that used to be a steel city as well, like Pittsburgh. A lot of steel car industry, and those all left.
But Buffalo is still having a lot of a business resurgence because the electric power there is relatively cheaper because of Niagara Falls.
Yes.
So first the Bitcoin miners plowed into Buffalo, bought vacant buildings, and put Bitcoin mining servers into a lot of buildings. Now, because of AI, Buffalo is seeing a tremendous. I mean, I have some classmates of mine in high school who are buying every building they can buy in Buffalo. Same thing in Cleveland. So there is hope, right? There's hope there.
Well, there was until they passed an AI moratorium here. At the end of session.
Okay.
Here's another thing. So AI is the new boogeyman. Okay, data centers. They don't want data centers. Now, who's they? They are, quite frankly, the socialists, the people on the left that are in charge. We passed this moratorium because we don't have enough power. Well, yeah, we don't have enough power because we have horrible energy policy here in New York State. We don't have enough power because we've shut down reliable baseload power. So who's the new boogeyman? Data centers.
Yeah,
so all those speculators, we've basically outlawed their ability to employ people to create jobs. There's a talk of a data center in my district. That could create 125 high-paying jobs in a very poor rural area. It's going to provide needed funding to complete a major water project, and it's going to be transformational. But right now, if the governor signs this moratorium, it's going to, that's it. It's going to be done.
And State Senator Borrello, who was paying the money in these anti-data center campaigns.
China.
It's China.
That's right. That's the part people don't get. Look at over the years, we've had a lot of useful idiots here in the United States, and the new useful idiot is the one who's standing up and rallying against these things. And by the way, I'm not saying it's pro. I'm not trying to be a pro data center, but I am pro growth. Also, we don't have the ability. New York State forces down the throats of our rural communities all these boondoggle green energy projects, wind and solar, and battery storage. We have the Office of Renewable Energy Siting, ORES, which can come into a community and just roll over local opposition, local zoning laws. They can cancel, roll over DEC regulations, wetland regulations, because that's the crisis that we're trying to address here. Which is, again, it's just an investment scam, is what it really is. But yet, with data centers, which are a much smaller footprint, which are going to create much more economic impact, we're going to shut those down. That's the hypocrisy out of Albany.
Fernando, this is something that you're the people that you're always so much in connection with, the bodega owners, the cab drivers, and things like that. This is a world that they may not be able to really truly understand, as far as like these data centers and the fact that if we don't get the power, we're not going to have the gas station or the food coming from, agriculture is the number one. I mean, those bodegas need to get those fruits and vegetables from somewhere.
They do. And listen, we're always shopping around for where we can buy stuff for less, right? Jamestown, how far is Jamestown, Senator, from New York City?
From New York City? Well, it's I'll be finding out in a few minutes because I'm going to be leaving. I don't know where.
You've been in the city?
Yeah, I've been in the city here,
Okay.
but I actually drove this trip, but it's a good 6.5, 7 hours. It's a long way from New York City. And again, New York's a huge state.
But when you listen to WABC on the radio, the drive is much shorter.
It is, and I've got the app. I have the app on my phone, so I can listen to it.
So probably by the end of Brian Kilmeade's show, you'll be back home, something like that. But no, that's an important factor. Look,
Judge Weinberg has entered the studio.
Judge, all rise,
all rise
for the judge.
I have his seat.
My favorite group, my favorite state senator.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Senator Borrello, how are you?
Yeah, you're on, Judge. Judge, we were just talking about this rent freeze decision.
It's totally illegal.
It's totally illegal. But the thing is that
No, I mean, all joking around. I mean, the only person on the board. Judge, tell us about the person on the board.
Person on the board is the way the board is constituted. You have representatives from landlords, from tenants, and so-called independents. And what happened was a number of Adams people resigned. Mandami packed the board with his
Loyalists.
people.
They were
Loyalists.
forced to resign, I heard.
That I don't
pressured.
know.
Nicer word.
That may or may not
pressure.
be, but let's be clear. They did resign. Then Mandami did pack the board. So what happened was you had this one lawyer. Her name is Christina Smith. She's the landlord representative, and she said that this was an unfair practice. They never looked at the conditions that the landlords were facing. That this was a hardship to them. They never did what they had to do lawfully. That this whole process, in fact, the hearing, the vote last night, was all a fix. It was all nonsense. It was all a charade. It was a predetermined result, and she did not want to be part of this charade or this.
And she resigned.
falsehood.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Now,
Let me ask you, before you came, what I said was, if the city wants to reduce rents or reduce increases, then you should reduce real estate taxes.
Of course.
But they're doing the opposite.
No,
they're
I-
increasing real estate taxes.
But John,
And
you're
water
on-
costs.
You're on, but listen very carefully because you're onto something. Because the housing czar from Mandami has made it perfectly clear she's anti-landlord, anti-capitalist. She wants to seize the private property. So what they've done is they created this sham commission about so-called bad landlords. So what they're going to do, is they're going to use this to give them all kinds of fines, drive them out of business. They can't make their expenses. They will abandon the properties, and the city will take it over. Now, let me ask you a question. Bad landlord? What's a worse landlord than the housing authority?
Senator
of New
Borrello
York?
said that exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, I happen to be a chassid when it comes a Hasidic capitalist, and I don't like having a rent board. I don't even like the board in the first place, even if it's stacked with better people. I don't like the idea. Let the
Exactly
free
right.
market decide. All right, we're going to take a break right now. This is the last day of the Katz and Company takeover of Sid and Friends in the Morning. We're going to make the most of it. We have a lot of really great guests coming up, and we are going to continue to show you why it is not compassionate to have the government so-called freeze rents.
Sid and Friends in the Morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
A lot of news going on again today. We haven't mentioned Venezuela, which was, of course, a huge top story and remains that. Those twin earthquakes on Wednesday. By the way, former pitcher for the Mets was in the worst, basically, place you can possibly be when an earthquake happens. Jose Mejia, he was in an elevator. You really don't want to be in an elevator when there's a massive earthquake. But he miraculously
saved his life.
Yeah, but it turned out okay for him, relatively so, of course. But right now, the death toll is something around 300 a little bit, but there are still thousands missing. There's going to be a lot of humanitarian aid requests and discussions about what's going on in Venezuela. And you know what? Venezuela's lucky that the United States has its hands around it right now, because it's going to make it a lot easier.
The United States has its hands around any disaster around the world.
But even before this disaster, the fact that we extradited Maduro, the illegal dictator of Venezuela, I can't say that enough. I can't stand when the mainstream media calls him the president like he was elected by the Electoral College or something. He was never.
Well, the socialists call him the president.
Yeah.
Venezuelans call him the dictator.
Yeah, why don't we just call him El Jefe or the Patron or whatever you want to call him? But he was not a real legitimate leader. And so the United States is a little bit more involved in Venezuela than it would have been a couple of months ago. And I think that this is something that could end up saving lives. The fact that we're there now, there's not as many hoops to jump through to get the aid to get there. And America's allies, a number of countries that are very good at this kind of stuff, setting up field hospitals, will have an easier time getting there. So there is a blessing, a blessing involved with
it. The Venezuelan community here in New York, predominantly in Astoria, Long Island City, that general area, we are here at WABC. Whatever you guys need, just reach out and we will support whatever efforts you have.
Yeah, and make it clear, come on Fernando's show, no excuses at 6 p.m., come on my programs. At any program here, and let us know what is needed. Because a lot of people, we hear about it, what do I send money? Do I send supplies?
Food, yeah.
Do I send my, do I tell my friends who do these kinds of relief work? It's important. And again, just as we were saying yesterday, it was so interesting, John, yesterday that we were hearing from so many people, many of our guests who were talking about, Bill O'Reilly talked about this, how if you go in the public school system today, and even a lot of the private schools, they teach our children about how terrible America is. How horrible a country this is. And at the same time, no one denies that we're the most charitable country in the world. No one denies that we motivate and mobilize quicker than anybody else. And that is why this story is doubly important, because the United States people are so charitable and we are so willing to help and we are able to do it. And most importantly, Fernando, we have the means with which to make that happen. It's not just a wish upon a star. We have the Peace Corps. We have these mobile hospitals that can be set up. We use the military for humanitarian aid all the time. The National Guard mostly does humanitarian aid. For those of you who think they're just there to back us up in Iraq or whatever, that's not true. So it's at the same day that we're hearing about how much America is hated, and it produces candidates like this Daria Chevalier who hate America and want to wipe their hands on an American flag like a napkin, we are reminded that this is a great country, charitable country.
You know what? She's still not a shoo-in. She's a shoo-in for the Democratic Socialist Party.
Got that.
Yeah, but we have a candidate called Yomo Williams, who's a Republican running against her.
Okay.
Does he have a chance, though? I mean, in that county?
If the Republicans get behind him, it's possible that he does.
Well,
forget
the Republicans. We had a big discussion last night. The Democrats have to get behind him. The common sense Democrats, the black community has to get behind him.
Here's James Carville saying that the Democrats, if Chevalier does win the general election, shouldn't seat her in their caucus. Here's James Carville. Listen to this. Can you hear this?
Okay, come on. Let's get real. And by the way, two of them, I don't think are even Democrats. This Chevalier lady, they should not seat her in the caucus. Her views are totally against anything that any Democrat has. We believe in pluralism. She doesn't even believe in interracial dating. I mean, who would? I don't think there's a place in the party. By the way, I'm not sure she wants to be a Democrat.
And when you've lost James Carville, you've lost everything.
No, I think James Carville has lost it completely. His mind has lost it.
But he's right here.
He said, you notice the words he uses. He fools the people. I want everybody to notice it. Shouldn't sit in the caucus. Doesn't mean anything.
Right, in the House
John has got it.
But
John has got it. The key, John is absolutely. The key is you don't let her take her seat in the House of Representatives.
No, but you can't. You don't have the right to do that.
Yeah, actually, you do have the right to do that.
You don't. Come on, give me a break.
The House has the right to not seat somebody.
Why?
Who's not qualified.
The Senate too.
And the Senate too, yes.
Yeah,
they don't have to see
so
them.
what are you going to... Yeah, listen.
It's a pre-expulsion.
If you take an IQ test with some of these people that got elected, I mean, are you going to convince people not to see them?
The fact is, I would make the effort not to seat her. And by the way, that story, I don't know if you folks have talked about it yet, but there's a story, I don't know the validity of which, is that there was foreign money went into that campaign coming out of Germans.
I have it right here. I have the soundbite right here. Now, we've been talking about, Judge, to answer your question, we've been talking about foreign money. And when we talk about foreign money getting into our election, which is completely illegal, we've been thinking it's Qatar or Iran or China. Well, it turns out this is a German man, a member of the German government, explaining how they spent a lot of money on New York's elections. Listen to this.
RLS NYC is part of the international network
NYC.
of the Rosa Luxemburg Foundation, Rosa Luxemburg Stiftung, RLS. RLS is a Berlin-based foundation associated with Germany's Left Party, which is currently the third strongest party in the national parliament, the Bundestag.
So the third largest party in Germany is funding illegally candidates as Democrat socialists in New York City.
Bottom line, you know what I keep saying? America is under attack, and we have to wake up.
Yeah.
We're going to wake up.
And it's attacking not just with bombs or with drugs, but also with money.
Let's find out what you knew.
The FBI needs a separate division just to go after these people and say enough is enough because we're under attack.
John's right. And let's find out how this money moved. Did she know about it? Did her campaign people know about it?
Who's going to investigate?
Well, we shut down.
The FBI can investigate it, and the House can investigate it.
You know, somebody very close to me investigated Act Blue. Okay? Act Blue was the big thing. Hundreds of millions of dollars came in to get Congress people elected, Democratic Congress people. You take a person that never ran for anything, and she got $35 million from Act Blue.
Never had a job.
Who's in jail?
Okay?
Yeah.
Nobody's in jail.
Okay.
Okay? But the FBI needs a separate division, and we have to... America, this is a different kind of war that's being waged on America, and the people have to realize it. And Senator Borrello, I was at your event last night where you had the Republican state chair people, and tell people what I said last night. You tell them.
Well, first of all, you really lit up the room. Thank you for being there. But you ended with that we cannot demonize all the Democrats. But you did say, and I think this is an important point, is people came to this country like our ancestors, your grandfathers. They came here to be Americans because they loved America. They came here for opportunity. My ancestors, and this is the story of America. It doesn't. Prior to America, how you were born was determined what your life was going to be. Okay, not in America. It doesn't matter where you were born, whether you have money, whether you have the right last name. You can be a success. Okay, and Mr. Katsimatidis, you're the perfect example of that. But we have an insurgency. That's what this really is. It's an insurgency here in the United States. And the insurgency is those folks that are here because they don't like America. And that's what you're seeing with some of these candidates.
And they're immigrants.
What happened was, and you weren't here the last few days, listen, Bill Clinton was a pro-America, loved America president. After the next president after that, President Obama, next Democratic president.
That's Democrat. Yeah.
That's where it started.
Yes.
That's where it started being anti-American. And we were talking about it the last few days, that 70% of the Democrats, maybe more, I don't know, loved America pre-President Obama. And now what is it down to?
29%.
29%.
And the number was even higher who loved America. It was 80%.
America's under attack. How is it under attack? It's under attack by political means, by what's happening, foreign money going into our political system. Number two, drugs.
Yes.
They are feeding drugs and killing our kids.
Not for profit, but to kill us.
100,000 Americans died every year in 22, 23, 24, 25. Stop already.
That's like two Vietnam Wars every year.
No more than that. Yeah, just
59,000 died in Vietnam.
It's like a 737 going down every day.
Yeah.
Okay? So you got drugs, you got foreign influences, and these paid actors that create scenes, and all the broadcasting companies broadcasted, and America thinks it's their way of life.
This is all making sense to me personally right now.
It's coming
together, and it's coming together here at the Sid Rosenberg show, and it's amazing.
Show?
Earth, Wind, and Fire. Listen, this is coming together. The influx of immigrants.
We'll create a new show like that.
The influx of
Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Listen,
and we'll start it in September.
Listen,
Inside joke.
The influx of immigrants, the influx of foreign money, all comes together, and it makes sense, John. These illegal immigrants that came during Obama and Biden and all of that, plus all that foreign money coming in now, they're putting it to use with the people that came into the country.
Okay, now listen. All these schmucky Democrats that were attacking President Trump for shooting down the Venezuelan boats that were bringing drugs to America. Give me a break.
That's ridiculous.
Give me a break.
It's ridiculous.
Finally
they got that boat has enough fentanyl or drugs to kill 10,000 kids.
Oh, more than that.
And we shoot it down, and the Democrats say, "Oh, let's put Trump in jail."
Yeah.
Give me a break.
And guess where their funding is coming from? Some of these drug cartels. Again, like it's almost nothing is said in D.C.
China. Gangs were funding the Mexican gangs to bring the fentanyl in, and some of the historians say the Chinese were getting even for the opium
wars.
The opium wars. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, by the way, we joke around in here. You think that Jews play the victim card a lot, or blacks, but the Chinese government plays the victim card better than anybody. They believe everyone has victimized them for hundreds of years, and thus they have no moral obligations to anyone. And that includes Japan, Russia, the United States, Britain, France. And John's exactly right. This isn't like the Miami Vice drug dealer of the 80s. The Chinese supplying this, they're not looking to make money off of this. They're looking to kill us.
Exactly right.
That's it.
Yeah. Now, the Mexican cartels are in the money business.
Yeah.
The Chinese are in the killing us
business. The Chinese are in the killing us business. And, it's all kidding aside. This isn't anything new. Our founding fathers, but even after that, understood with the creation of some of our federal departments exactly the different ways that a country can be attacked. It's not just with bombs and with guns. The Secret Service used to be very much involved in combating counterfeiting, because if you put counterfeit currency into an economy, you destroy that economy. I thought one of the worst decisions, speaking of George W. Bush, worst decisions was putting the Secret Service under the auspices of the Homeland Security Department. That was a terrible thing. The Treasury Department is not perfect, but compared to the other agencies in D.C., it's pretty darn good. And I wanted the Secret Service to remain part of Treasury. That's another discussion.
I still don't understand. I want every American out there to know this IRS executive director. What was her name?
Her name was Lois Lerner under Obama. Lois Lerner.
Lois Lerner. Tell the people what she did.
But she
never went to jail, and she never spent. And she never got fined, and except.
I'll tell you, I was running Larry Kudlow's show at CNBC when this scandal broke. Lois Lerner was deliberately going after right-wing organizations that were legitimately not-for-profit and scrutinizing them, taking away their not-for-profit, their tax status, et cetera, et cetera. And it was proven beyond a shadow of doubt that she was doing this for political reasons. And we thought at the Kudlow show this was going to be a big ratings grabber. We thought everyone was going to pay attention. Well, they didn't. She got away with it. She was never prosecuted. She's fine and dandy now. And she was just the tip of the iceberg, John. There were a lot of other people doing this.
You know what was worse about what happened with Lois Lerner? She was before the Congressional Committee. She read a statement saying how wonderful she was and denying everything. Then when they started to ask her questions, she took the Fifth Amendment. Now, let me give you some basic Fifth Amendment law. As soon as you give up any information, you say anything, you've waived the privilege. And they never went after her for contempt of the Congress, and they should have.
Nobody on this panel takes the Fifth, including Fernando Mateo. We're going to hear from him when we come back after this break.
Yeah, I'm ready to explode.
He will never take the Fifth.
We should skip the commercial breaks here.
This is Sid on Sports. Oh, my goodness! Sponsored by Peerless Boilers on 77 WABC.
Justin Ellick here with your sports update, sponsored by Pete Morgan and Peerless Boilers. Go to peerlessboilers.com to find a dealer near you. Peerless Boilers, the world's best built boilers. Out in Boston, the Yankees lost 6-3 in the opener of a four-game series against the rival Red Sox. Up next for them, Will Warren will get the start in tonight's Game 2 of this four-game set against the Sox. First pitch from Boston scheduled for 7:10 p.m. In Queens, Mets lost 4-3 in 10 innings to the Cubs, suffering a 4-game series sweep and dropping the finale. Up next for the Mets, rookie righty Zach Thornton will be recalled from AAA tonight to face the Phillies in the opener of a 3-game weekend series. First pitch from Citi Field is scheduled for 7:10 p.m. Let's check in on the World Cup as well. Final from Los Angeles last night saw the U.S. fall in the final seconds to Turkey 3-2. Fielded a team of reserves because the group's larger fate was already determined after the U.S. beat Paraguay and Australia in its previous 2 games. Americans knew before kickoff that whatever happened, it would face Bosnia Herzegovina in the round of 32 come next Wednesday from Santa Clara, California. That is your sports, sponsored by Pete Morgan and Peerless Boilers. Go to peerlessboilers.com to find a deal on you. Peerless Boilers, the world's best built boilers. I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
All joking aside, really, we have a lot of listeners because the Sid and Friends show in Israel is around lunchtime, and it's a good time to sit down. Israelis still sit down and read a paper, listen to the radio. They actually do that in that country. They don't eat at their desk so much. It's not a thing. And Sid met a lot of our listeners there, so he wasn't exactly taking time off from WABC. But I'm here with John Catsimatidis, our owner-operator, Fernando Mateo, Judge Richard Weinberg, and our special guest today, State Senator George Borrello, is also a spokesman for the Republican Party. And State Senator, we were just talking in the break. James Carville might say, it's just three districts. I mean, come on. But the fact is, these primary results are creating more traction for Hakeem Jeffries and Senator Schumer to be replaced as Democrat leaders in the House and Senate, respectively. I don't think that's too far-fetched. People might look at those guys and say they're the old guard.
Well, there's no doubt about it. First of all, Schumer has had a target on his back for a long time. AOC obviously wants that job. Of course, she thinks she can be president. She's not qualified to run anything. But that being said, look, the Democrat Party, on top of moving far to the left and on top of becoming, socialist, is also huge in identity politics. It's about the color of your skin. It's about what your religion is. It's about your gender or your gender fluidity, which isn't a thing. This is what the Democrat Party has become about. So, Chuck Schumer, you're an old straight white guy. You're a dinosaur in the party. You are an endangered species. And now, and this is the stuff he supported. Okay. He has been all behind this woke agenda, this DEI. He's pushed all of that, and now he's going to become a victim of it.
Creating a monster net. But what about Hakeem Jeffries? He's a relatively young African-American man. Why is he, Fernando, why is he under the gun?
Hakeem Jeffries is like a follower, really. He may be one day the Speaker of the House, which, I really don't. I hope it doesn't happen.
God forbid. God forbid. You got to learn that term.
So why should he be? Right. So listen, my take on Hakeem Jeffries is he's very insecure. He's lost a huge chunk of his power here in New York City. It seems like if Zoran Mandami is really the leader of the Democratic Party and the Democratic Socialist Party here in New York. And it's time for Jeffries and Schumer to really open up for someone new to come in.
Well, as a Republican, or mostly, I'm not really a Republican operative. I'm certainly not an elected official. But as a conservative, I would like for the American people to see who the Democrats really are. And the Democrats are not Chuck. Listen, Chuck Schumer is one of my least favorite people in Congress. He sat next to me at my high school graduation because that was his district.
Did he elbow you?
No, but back then Chuck Schumer had the loudest voice, by the way, in D.C. The man never needed a microphone. It's not as loud anymore, thank God. But I really dislike him, his policies. I don't know him personally, so I'm not going to say anything personal about it.
All you need to know about Chuck Schumer is that the Obama deal that he cut with Iran, which sold out America, Western civilization, our allies in the Middle East, he let it happen.
Right.
He could have stopped it. And the legislative process business, as Senator knows, is something called being let off the hook. So when you have enough votes to get something through, so they let you vote the other way, so you can go back to your constituents and say, look at me, I vote against it. Right. The fact of the matter is, he was the leader of the Democrats. He could have said, no, Mr. President, this is a bad deal. It's bad for America. It's bad for Western civilization. But Schumer went into the tank, let Obama cut that deal with Kerry, the worst deal, and President Trump has to unravel that worst deal that threatens Western civilization.
And, Judge, there were some Democrats, including my congresswoman at the time, Kathleen Rice, who were courageous enough to say that. She basically lost her job because of it. She stood up to Obama on the Iran deal. She stood up to Pelosi on getting new blood in to the Democrat Party. She's not in politics anymore. So Schumer can't say, no Democrat did
and
this.
nobody even knows her name anymore. I've forgotten her name completely until you just
refresh
mentioned
our
it.
recollection.
Yeah. She was a young, good-looking,
that's why,
moderate Democrat.
That's why people say, I want to run for Congress to make a difference. The leadership makes the decisions. And people have to realize that. The leadership makes the decisions, and everybody goes out along for the ride. Otherwise, what happened to Kathleen Rice happens to them.
You get excommunicated from. You don't get.
We
You don't get
had to
debate
come up
assignments.
with a gong. Reality check.
And there's no such thing as a non-religious person. The most religious people I meet every day are far left Democrats who don't want to have a conversation, who don't want. I mean, I had much easier time growing up in the South among evangelical Christians than I do talking to some environmental radicals or some of these anti-Israel radicals who are absolutely like religion. I've seen cults before.
They're true believers.
I'm a member of the oldest remaining cult in the world. I gave it the office. I know a cult. I know a member of a cult when I see one, and these people are like absolutely crazy. They don't do business, do they, Fernando?
Listen, Jake, when we had hundreds of thousands of undocumented immigrants landing in New York City, Chuck Schumer was the head of the U.S. Senate.
Yeah, the majority leader.
The majority. What did he do to help the Adams administration? Right? What did he do to bring funding to New York? What did he do to help New York City? No one's asked that question.
It was worse than that, Fernando. He covered up for the Biden administration.
Okay, so if he covered up, you know what? He doesn't belong in New York City.
And State Senator George Borrello, he's still supposed to be the senator of New York State. Did he do anything for your districts, for your part of the state?
Well, no. When it comes to these kind of things, also, you start talking about the migrant crisis. You literally had people that were flown here on private jets by the Biden administration, and then they go after the governor of Texas for putting some people on a bus. But that accounted for I think the number was 30 or 40% of the total. Most of those folks were brought here by the Biden administration. They chose to come here,
purposely.
Yeah. So, and where was Chuck Schumer to stand at the entrance of the state and say stop?
You're hurting our city.
No, they did the opposite.
Yeah.
They stood at the bus.
Say, come on in.
Well,
come on in.
coffee.
Come on in.
They were giving them coffee and donuts.
And here's an extra coffee.
And here's
an
your
extra
cell
donut.
phone. And here's your cell phone.
And here's your cell phone. And here's a credit card.
And here's a $400 room of hotel where you're going to stay.
I mean, and let's not forget the NGOs. Okay, all these government-funded organizations that came in here and created a lot of chaos. They told these folks, look, if they're not giving you culturally appropriate food, you throw it back in their face.
Unbelievable.
I mean, we wasted, I can't tell you how many millions of pounds of food that went to waste here in New York State.
They wouldn't eat it.
Yes.
If you walk by the Roosevelt Hotel, just a few blocks from the studio, and you saw what was going on there, they made it a third world slum.
It was a disaster.
Also, the Lucerne Hotel on the Upper West Side. Some of these hotels, and some of the hotel owners were okay with it because with the COVID, the COVID lockdowns, they wanted to make some of their money back. I mean, they twisted the knife there in a way. All right, we got to take a break. We got a lot coming up in the next half hour. We're going to hear from KT McFarland. We'll also hear from Ari Fleischer, the former White House spokesperson.
And Fernando Mateo.
And Fernando Mateo is going to remind us that he has a show at 6 p.m. on Sunday.
What's the name of that show?
No excuses.
Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
For disclosure purposes, he's been my chief of staff for the last 10 years. And George, we've been talking about the FBI between the 6 o'clock hour and the 7 o'clock hour. And we said that America is under attack. We have drugs coming in from all over the place. One form of attack, another form of attack, politics-wise, foreign money possibly coming in, affecting our elections. But we're under attack in so many different ways than we were 30 years ago, 20 years ago. And you were with the FBI. You run the Federal Law Enforcement Foundation. Besides, you talk to all law enforcement. Give us your evaluation.
John, you can't be more right. And it's been going on for years, this whole foreign influence of America. It goes on at a number of different levels. You know, you have the campaigns. You know, they've been influencing campaigns with money, not to say influence with voting, but money. And it's an American problem on both sides. You know, and the problem is, and I'm going to be real frank here, the politicians like the money. They need the money. The way campaigns are run, money is essential to getting elected, and we see it here. And they don't, they're not really keen on attacking the money. I'm telling you right now, because I've experienced this personally. And it has to be done. We have to. They're attacking us on many levels. Economically, they're attacking us. You know, New York City is a perfect example. The reason the prices are so high in New York City is because foreign money. I'll give you an example. I have a son who's looking to change apartments in Manhattan. I was at an open house yesterday. I was the only English-speaking person looking at that apartment. And that apartment, as of this morning, has gone up almost $1,000 in rent in a bidding war on rents. And it's foreigners that are pushing it up because they come here with a lot of money. All the rich foreigners that come in here. But that's good for our economy, so you can't fight that. But when it comes to elections, I'm telling you, they are influencing, and they're influencing both sides. They want us to kill each other, and they're succeeding. The hate is running rampant right now, and they successfully pitted American against American.
Divide and conquer.
Yeah, and we got to all wake up soon because, right now everything's Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican. No, we're Americans. Nobody's voting American first. Everybody's voting party first because they're trying to keep that power. And I don't know when we wake up, but if we don't wake up soon, I'm telling you, we're going to lose our country. And what you guys are saying is true. We're gonna lose our country, and they're laughing at us.
George Venizelos, I wonder if you can help me dig a little bit deeper into this when you talked about because you mentioned the candidates needing the money because the way campaigns are expensive. But did you ever see evidence of what I also think is going on here, which is, a candidate gets all this money in campaign funds, but the way that they can turn that into personal funds is they hire friends and relatives as their campaign staff. There was a Republican, Tom DeLay, who got nailed for this. He put his wife and his daughter as his campaign chairman, and paid them ridiculous salaries. So this isn't just about, I have an expensive campaign and I want to run an election. It's also about lining their pockets personally.
100%. And that's happening a lot. And again, we gotta have gain the stomach to go against this. We have to, and like everybody's been saying it all week here. Until somebody goes to jail, you're not going to stop it.
George, you've been in law enforcement for over 30 years. Retired plus after retirement. Why doesn't anybody go to jail? I don't understand it.
John, that is something has baffled me for years, and a lot of it is, I don't want to make excuses, but a lot of it has to do with the prosecution. You can investigate all you want. If they're not going to prosecute it, then you're wasting your time. We got to get an appetite. Like, for example, what's going on now with the Medicaid fraud, the healthcare fraud. That's been going on for years. Now they finally have put a really good fusion team together to go after that, and we're getting a lot of results. They need to do the same for the foreign influence of our country.
Well, I want to say, Judge Richard Weinberg, you've been in law enforcement for 100 years, too. Have you seen
100 years?
Right.
But you look great.
I'm killing people, and John's making them older. That's what's going on here on this program.
I went from yesterday 78 to 100.
Judge.
Yes, sir.
Have you seen a significant decrease of fraud situations going to jail?
When my first job out of law school, I was a law clerk to a federal judge, and I had an official corruption unit. And you go into the office, and you see the pictures of all the politicians. Literally, George and John, they had these people's pictures there, and they were always looking at them to see if there's a way of making a case. And as George points out, unless the U.S. attorneys or the state AGs or the DAs think they have a slam dunk case, they're not going to go for it because they're worried about their win-loss record, and they don't want to expend resources unless they know they can win.
It's like the FBI the other day said to me when they have that case, George,
Right.
With the former chief of staff to Mayor Eric Adams, is unless we think we have a 95% chance of convicting, we don't take the case to.
And that's something the federal system doesn't like to take chances, especially in the corruption arena, because if you don't win, it works against you. Then it's like, oh, they're going after them because it's a politics. Oh, they're going, you know what? Being a politician has become big business. Do a net worth of a person before they go in, especially in this city here with some of these people. And then look at them, 10, 20 years later, the money they're making, and they're not making on their salaries.
Well, look at the leaders in Congress, in the House, the Senate. Look at the presidents.
Yeah.
Look at the presidents. How do these people walk out of the presidency multi-million dollars?
Except Trump, who actually, after his first term, had lost money.
Right. Lost money. But the fact of the matter is, this became a cash cow.
Listen, politics is the most corrupt business out there.
Harry Truman took the train back after he became.
No, he
wasn't president anymore.
Actually drove back. He actually drove
back. He drove the train back.
I wasn't born.
The David McCullough book talks also about how even after he was president, he turned down lucrative offers. Toyota offered Truman at the time, this is like 1960, millions of dollars to endorse Toyota, and he wouldn't do it.
And he wouldn't even write a book.
It was our last honest
He wouldn't
price.
even write a book to make money.
That's right.
You know how a lot of them do
write
it?
a book to.
They form these foundations.
Yeah.
Right?
Middle
Foundations
America,
support your retirement life.
Yeah, read all of David McCullough's books, by the way. The Truman book, a very good one. Look, we also have tax laws. When Richard Nixon was vice president and lost the presidency in 1960, the election in 1960, he donated his vice presidential papers, which in my opinion are the public's property. He's doing it in his office. He donated them to the National Archives and wrote off in $1960 $500,000. He basically never paid personal taxes almost ever again because of that, because that was his deduction carried over year. I mean, there are so many scams, Fernando. If we're electing, believe me, the dirty people will find dirty ways.
Listen, there's a lot of very honest elected officials. We have here,
sitting right here,
Senator
Borrello.
Senator.
And by the way, all of the silverware has been counted. Senator Borrello, you're in the clear. You're in the clear. Nothing's missing.
So, listen, I ran for mayor of New York City, and I had to raise money. And to be quite honest with you, I was very careful about how I accepted money and who I accepted it from. Why? Because I have a lot more to lose. Personally, I'm a very wealthy person. Not as wealthy as John, but I'm wealthy, and I've worked very hard my entire life, right? I don't have a high school. I never graduated high school because I was working to help support my family. But a lot of the poor politicians, like Espaillat, to name a few, and these people that run in these poor neighborhoods, they need money. And they're going to take money from whoever gives it to them. And if they don't get caught, they got away with it. And most of them get away with it. But, the key to success when you're running for office is cash. It's money. They take cash. They take bonds. They take food stamps. They'll take whatever you give them.
You have an even worse system in New York City, and now you have in New York State the so-called campaign finance laws, which supposed to make the system more honest.
Public campaign finance.
Yeah, it's awful. It's absolutely awful. In New York City, it's 8-1. So you encourage people who have no chance at all and have no message and no intention to serve the people running, getting 8-1 money, which is exactly why after Curtis Slewa made all that money, all that deal, having all his friends and family on the payroll, when he ran for mayor, when he should have gotten out of the race to stop Mondami, I've announced that I'm running for mayor next time out.
Yeah, because
I get some of that free money.
He keeps the money flowing.
Speaking about Curtis, rest in peace, Curtis. Sid and company have you underground, my friend. And with this show this week, you're done.
Last word to State Senator George Borrello, who has not taken any of our money in the last few minutes, at least.
Yes, exactly.
And he paid for the cup of coffee I gave him.
Oh, he did? Right, okay.
That's all money on the counter.
Campaign contribution. Last word to you.
Well, look, there is no doubt that money influences things in politics. It has to. But the system is set up that way, including the public campaign finance system, okay? There are a lot of people that profit at the expense of the taxpayers and the people, because whether the person wins or loses, they make profit. This was designed for consultants to profit.
Yes.
That's really what it comes down to.
Thanks for listening to Sid and Friends in the Morning. You can hear Sid and Friends in the Morning weekday mornings at 6. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?